Hey everyone, I thought I would give an update on what's happening in the company, in my life, what I'm reading, what's happening here in the office. Everything is getting discombobulated because there's major changes and movings that are happening with the office of the company. Media Day, my first company, going well, doing contracts, social media, website marketing work with nonprofits and churches and foundations and schools. Burst is going really well. It's been about a month or two since we finished the Kickstarter campaign. It's just remarkable. Let me show you these books here. Some of our books have been coming in. That's the envelope, or one of the envelope designs that we are considering. And yeah, these books are coming in, and so it's remarkable seeing people reading these, enjoying them, their families reading together, their children reading together with their parents. It's just a beautiful thing. In parallel, what I've also been doing is kind of scratching the itch that I've always had of philosophy. It's part of why Serovius to me has always been kind of a two-part brand, or kind of who I am, right? Has always been of two parts. One is more immediate and practical in like a day-to-day sense. But another part of me has always been interested in kind of like the philosophy of the world, of nature, of reality, in a practical sense, right? I don't just like to philosophize just to exercise my brain. I have always believed that we have to understand the highest version of something. Like for me to be acting, I want to know why I'm acting, what's the ultimate foundation, right, for my choices in life. As a man, as a father, as a husband, as a businessman, like as a human being, as a pedestrian on the street, as a driver in the car, I make choices. And as I was growing up, I didn't have a good sense of explaining to myself how to make choices, how the world works. And I think most people also have the same kind of like puzzle. It's a complicated place, this world. And instead of being imprisoned by the complexity, early on in when I was 15, 16, I made a decision that I needed to find a way to explain the world in a way that made sense. And then I could explain to myself my decisions in my life on strong foundations. And so that's kind of been always the basis for my fascination with philosophy, because that's the field that attempts to explain those questions or to answer those questions. And for the last 10 plus years, I left my fascination of philosophy kind of on the side, having spent my undergraduate and my graduate years in college being completely immersed in philosophy, studying a lot of the classical realist thought, kind of like knowing early on that was going to be my the answer that I needed back in college. Having been satisfied with 7-8 years of nearly daily study, essentially of classical realism, classics also Latin, Greek, in terms of languages and literature and history, but philosophy as well. I was so pumped and primed for action when I left college that I was like, okay, now let's go build and do things. And so that's been my last 10 years, is living out on that confidence, on those convictions. Now what's happened in the last year or so, I now want to talk about philosophy again. And what I realized, if you watch some of my early videos on philosophy, I was shocked by how unprepared I was. Like I talk about the 7 deadly sins or the 7 vices, and then I was like, okay, what's the opposite of that? The 7 virtues. Aspects of human life that has to do with living well, having honesty, having courage, having humility, having a hard work ethic. There's a lot of qualities that are moral, and we haven't thought enough about them other than, things like social justice virtues, like not being a racist or not being, prejudiced or something. Those all of us know all about. We're taught by everybody what those are. Nobody really thinks about what it is to be honest. What is it to be to have moral fortitude in case of tremendous pressure to compromise? Why shouldn't you compromise? I think we have to come back to that, and those are more important than how to not be prejudiced. I just forgot a lot of what I learned 15, 20 years ago. It was just a long time ago. And I was just so confident in my perpetual knowledge of it that I didn't really bother to polish up on that. And now I feel like it's been such a successful roadmap for me and such a tool of inestimable value that I want to talk about those topics again and kind of like help other people understand the value of philosophy and how to answer objections and how to address common, competing perspectives. And when I did that a year ago, 2 years ago, when I first began to make videos like this, I failed and crashed and burned. I just couldn't come up on the spot with quick and thoughtful answers. So for the last year, what I've been doing is I've been reading philosophy again. Really, 2 years ago also, I began reading natural law on a very heavy basis, Cicero to Middle Ages to Grotius, etc. And then now I moved into philosophy proper, all of it. It's just fascinating. Like just today and yesterday and the last couple, weeks, I've been watching dozens and dozens and dozens of lectures on YouTube as a way to quickly download a lot of the concepts and thinkers without having to sit down and read them, because I'm running 2 companies at once, so I still need to have my hands be free. But I want to get back into philosophy and kind of bring back that second piece of myself, not just the day-to-day part of myself, but the more theoretical, the more foundational, the more abstract, the more thought out and well-situated, but a little more theory-based part of me that I think is so important, because you have to have theory and practice, right? You can't just have practice without knowing what you're doing or why. I am very confident in how things are developing, and I'd like to start soon to get back into the saddle of not just talking about business, but get back into philosophy on like a confident foundation. Start to talk about the great thinkers and the great ideas. Like the world we live in today, which is so philosophically precise in its rejection of seemingly irrelevant abstractions, like what is truth, what is reality, what is reason, like all these things that you would think doesn't matter, like just like live your life. And then you find the world in September 2021, when those abstractions have been precisely like rejected. Like you go to people outside on the street and you say, do you have free will? Can you act in a moral way? And like 100% of people will say, if they've thought about it, right? If you're not like just an average person, if you've thought about these questions of free will, you will say, no, man does not have free will. And so therefore you're gonna inevitably not be too concerned with ethics, not be too concerned with being a moral person, a principled person, a virtuous person, right? It's just not practical or relevant to ask yourself what is the right thing to do when the basic belief system under which you live is you don't really choose anyway. Kind of like things just happen to you, and then you inevitably react and act based on what happened. Like what entered your mind is what's going to cause you, push you to certain actions. So then like you're not going to deliberate or learn how to perfect your activities and how to perfect your virtues and how to get become a better person, right? You're just going to continue to be kind of like a speck of wood on the water, just flowing wherever things happen to go. So reason, virtue, ethics, reality, truth, these abstractions have been precisely rejected one by one. And it validates that people care about them. It doesn't matter what the answers are to those questions. And I didn't have a good answer 3 years ago on why I believe in those things, why I accepted those things. And now I do. And I think it's really important to get back to that, help people with that, show them how it's helped me. So anyway, got a little bit of a rant there going, but I've been heavy into philosophy, heavy into business, overwhelmed in a good way with business, heavy with family, my little children, which is the absolute brightest star of my day. Is to be with them and play with them and teach them and be silly with them. So family is amazing. Whatever you're doing right now as you're watching this, I guess I wish you those two things: work, a foundational understanding, and